video is the end table plan and procedure step 12, which are the drawer guides. Now, so in the first step you need to get 3 boards. 2 of those boards need to be 17 inches long by 1 1/4 inch wide and 3/4 of an inch thick. So you just need to go and get some scrap material from the short rack and find a board that'll work, a couple boards that'll work to get you the boards that are listed on the paper, 17 inches long, 1 1/4 wide, 3/4 of an inch thick. Mill them down, cut them, square them up, mill them down, and make them to that size. The other board you need to get is a 1/4 inch thick piece of material that is 3/4 of an inch wide, and it's in various lengths. I've just got a bunch of these. Go to the supply and get one of these, and we need to trim off an end, and then we're going to cut it to the length that the bottom of the drawer is. Now, from the front edge right here of the drawer to the back is how long it needs to be. So mine is 13 3/4 of an inch long. And most of them will be pretty close to that. You'll just have to measure how long yours is. You can cut this on the upcut saw, or you can cut it on the miter saw. I'm here at the upcut saw to cut it. So we'll go ahead and do that now. I'm going to slide this in, just trim off a little bit from the end. And then I'm going to set this to 13 3/4, which is the length of, I just measured, 13.75 here. And then I'm going to cut this at 13.75. Now, on this one, this slides underneath the bar, so I need to rotate it up and actually cut it on its side. So now I have the 13 3/4 inch piece, my 2 other pieces that are 17 inches long. Put this back on the supply for the 3/4 or the 1/4 inch thick material. All right, the next step in the process is to take the 1/4 inch thick piece that's the same length as in here, and we're going to glue it to the back side of the bottom of the drawer. Now we want this to be centered in here so that when we pull the drawer out, that it pulls evenly and doesn't want to bind. And we also need to make sure that it's not going at a diagonal, that it's going square down this. So I definitely recommend doing some measuring and figuring out center, and then if I make a little mark where center is on each of these boards, I can line all those up so that we get it straight when we glue it. So I'm going to do that first here. So this happens to be 12 3/8 wide and about 12 1/2 there. Okay, so it looks like its angle's just a titch. Half of 12 is 6, half of 3/8 is 3/16. So I need 6 3/16 down here. And then down here on the very edge, I'm going to put half of 12 is 6, half of a half is 1/4, so 6 1/4. I'm going to mark 1/4 right there. I'll show you these marks that I have. Okay, so I've got the mark right there, and then I've got the mark right there. Now, find center of the ends of this board, and this is a 3/4 inch board, so half of 3/4, double the bottom number, is 3/8. Center right there, and I'm going to mark center down here, 3/8 as well, and that way, okay, there's the 2 centers. Then I can line these lines up and make sure everything is lined up straight when I glue it and clamp it. So now the next step is to glue this, put a little bit of glue, and then we're going to use the C-clamps to clamp it. A little bit of glue all the way down it. Spread it out. Place it on here. Line up your lines. Now it's going to want to move on you when you try to clamp it. So press it in place and let it sit there for a minute or so before you try to clamp it. Let the glue start to hold it in place. It'll make it a lot easier so it doesn't want to move on you as much when you're clamping it. Okay, so just press it down, and then while it's sitting there, I'm going to get these clamps, and I'm going to clamp on this end first. Bring that up and just snug that up. Don't go real tight yet until you get the other end clamped. Okay. I'll do the same down here, making sure that your lines stay lined up. Okay, I'm just going to snug it, double check the lines. Okay, right now you can see the lines are lined up still, and now I can go ahead and tighten these down pretty good. And there we go. Needs to dry for 30 minutes, and then we can take off the clamp. All right, so next we need to take the two boards that we rough cut at 17 inches long, and we need to cut them to the exact length. And paper says that we need to measure from the back of the D-ring here, okay, so from the back here to the front of the D-ring, and in this case mine is 16 1/4, and then you need to subtract 3/4 of an inch. So that means I'm at 15 1/2. So I need to go cut both of these 17-inch boards to 15 1/2. I'm gonna go do that, and I'll be right back.
All right, so I got these boards cut, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna place them in here, kind of like this, and tied up against the back. We need to mark the bottom edge of where the comes in contact with the D-ring. So I'm just gonna take my pen and go up underneath and trace along that edge, okay? Trace along that edge. All right, and I'm gonna mark that this is the front. It's not a bad idea to mark that somehow that this is the front edge. We're gonna be cutting that out, so you may wanna mark it on the top here, just so that it's easier to line everything back up. All right, so I got my front edge. I've got these marks here where the D-ring goes. Next, we need to mark a line 1/4 inch down near both ends of the board. So this is my top, and we're gonna measure down 1/4 inch and mark a line. So use your tape measure, line it up with the line here, and I'm gonna come down 1/4 inch, kind of like that, okay? Make sure you're going from the top edge. So I'm gonna do it on the back side here, 1/4 inch from this, right there. Do the same on these ones, this one. You wanna be consistent here, 1/4 inch. And 1/4 inch. Now that I've got that little mark there, I'm just gonna use my finger to gauge that. Gauge that there on all 4 pieces, or all 4 ends, I should say. And it's not a bad idea to take that mark and go down this edge here, okay? Now you could use some kind of straight edge as well, or you can just make sure you can use your finger. This works. Okay, so I'm transferring that line to the sides here of each one too. And then, last of all, this line here, we're gonna wanna transfer up onto the edge here, like that, so that we have the shape looking like this. Okay, so bring that straight up. Bring that straight up. And you can just eyeball this one, or you could use a square. Not a bad idea to use a square either. But ultimately, we just need a good place where we know where we're gonna be cutting. That's what those need to look like so that now they're ready to go and do the cutting that we need to do on them.